What is up, ladies and gentle nerds? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and today we are looking at a very special card. This one is requested by Sam Consumes Pies, who is an awesome person in addition to having an awesome name. And so I just wanted to say thank you, Sam, for this request, and it is for Form of the Dragon. Now, Form of the Dragon is an enchantment that was originally printed back in Scourge, and this was one of those cards from back in the day that I looked at and realized I think this is my style because it's not very good, but it's expensive and weird. And as a result, I'm all for it. So Form of the Dragon, it costs 4 red, red, red. So total converted mana cost of 7. And this is a rare, by the way. Rare enchantment. Not an enchant creature, mind you. Not an aura. Just a straight up enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, Form of the Dragon deals 5 damage to target creature or player. Holy cow. So at the beginning of your turn, you get to Lava Axe, whatever the heck you want. That's amazing. Just for context, Ugin's +1 only deals 3 damage, and most people will scoop the moment they see that. Okay, so what else does this do? At the end of each turn, your life total becomes 5. Ooh, okay, that's not good. It becomes 5 at the end of each turn. So if someone can deal 5 damage to you on their turn, then, well, they win. Like, it's that simple. You just get knocked out immediately because your life total is only 5. But there's one other detail. Creatures without flying can't attack you. So if your opponent has a big ground force, that doesn't matter. They need to be able to deal damage to you with flyers or with direct burn spells. Those are really their only choices. So Form of the Dragon is a weird situation where you've got a lot of bonuses, but you also have some downside. It's a little bit of everything, you know. It's good, it's bad, it's kind of awkward. It changes the rules of the game. That's the biggest thing. It changes the rules of the game, and as a result, this is the kind of card that you can do some really fun jank with. You know, this is the kind of thing that you can put into a deck that has some other weird, weird elements, and as a result. Like, for example, I would want to combo Form of the Dragon with something that can limit the effectiveness of my opponent's flyers. The very first thing that comes to mind is Archetype of Imagination, which is a blue spell. Well, it's a blue creature that when it's in play, all of your creatures gain flying, and none of your opponent's creatures can have flying. They just don't have it. So the moment you have Form of the Dragon out, you have Form of the Dragon, Archetype of Imagination, none of your opponent's creatures have flying. As a result, none of them can attack you. Period. You are now immune to combat damage completely. And you're dealing 5 damage to a target at the beginning of every single turn. That's fantastic. Now, are there situations in which people will be able to burn you to death? Oh, absolutely. That is for sure going to happen. So the other thing you can do is have cards that give you, have life gain instant speed cards in there, or cards that prevent damage or redirect damage. So things like Gideon's Sacrifice. Now, we're talking about a number of different colors here. There are also cards that, there are red cards that redirect spells. So I think there's one actually called Redirect, if I'm not mistaken, that is an instant that actually changes the target of a spell that only has one target. So if somebody's throwing a Lava Axe at you to deal 5 damage, now why someone's running Lava Axe, I have no idea. But if they've hit you with a couple of burn spells and one of them is like a 3 damage shot, like let's say they're hitting you with a Lava Spike or something, you can redirect it and hit them with it instead. Stop hitting yourself. There are a lot of other spells like that too. Things like Deflecting Palm that redirect damage from you to another target. That's all fantastic. Seriously, it's just lovely. So there are weird things you can do alongside Form of the Dragon. But let's think about the flavor of Form of the Dragon. Like, what is this card? It's an enchantment. It's got a big, nasty looking, very threatening dragon on it. But what is it doing? So at the beginning of each upkeep, it deals 5 damage to anything that you want. Now that sounds very much like fire breathing or, some kind of breath weapon that we associate with dragons. It deals a lot of damage immediately to whatever target that you want. And then it does modify your life total. So it's modifying you. It's modifying your life total. And the name, Form of the way that I always interpreted this card is that I, the player, am transforming into a dragon that is now swooping over the battlefield. And because I have now lifted into the air, I now have flying. Therefore, creatures without flying cannot attack me. They can't reach me because I'm up in the air. Interestingly enough, though, creatures with reach also cannot attack you, which is a little bit of a hole in that logic, but it's also for simplicity's sake. It'd be really awkward, especially because this was originally printed at a time before reach. So it would be a little awkward if they added that in kind of retroactively. So all in all, I feel like that's one of those where it's like you could argue that it would make more sense if reach was included in that, but I'm not gonna. Well, here I am nitpicking like crazy, but let's go ahead and move on. So the fact that it weakens your life total, or it changes your life total to only 5, is something that I don't fully understand. I feel like with modern day power that would be like 10. Because this thing does cost 7 to put into play. So the fact that you're just that fragile... Actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm putting this into a little bit of a context because one of the books that I actually read with my daughter at nighttime is The Hobbit. I love that book. It's absolutely fantastic. And I'm thinking of Smaug flying over Lake Town and the idea of the glittering scaled armor on its underside with one hole in it. And that idea that if you can hit, and that actually is captured here. So I, the Planeswalker, am becoming this dragon. I am impervious to attacks from ground creatures. They cannot touch me. I have this ability to deal incredible damage every single turn to whatever targets I want, allowing me to destroy my foes very quickly. In a 60 card game, and where the opponent's starting life total is 20, that's a 4-turn clock that they are on the moment you drop this, assuming you haven't dealt any damage to them yet this game. So that's really aggressive. Like, that's not nothing. So the idea of this incredibly powerful monster that just has this chink in the armor, this one little hole that you can exploit. And if you have the ability to deal 5 damage directly, if you have a black arrow that you can fire into that hole, then you can defeat this player. You can defeat this planeswalker who has transformed themselves into a dragon. I think that's really fun, and it fits mechanically like that. I don't know if that's exactly what they were going for, but it's definitely what's sparking for me. And it's cool. I like it. So yeah, if you have flyers, this can work. If you have damage, or if you have direct damage, this can also, you can also get around it that way. The fact that your life total becomes 5, though, is one thing to keep in mind. If your opponent deals 4 damage to you, once your turn rolls around and you hit the end of it, your life total resets to 5. So they have to be able to deal 5 damage in one go. So that's not nothing. It's not like your life total is 5 as soon as this comes into play, and then you're just stuck with whatever you have left. You do regenerate up to 5 life. So actually, if anything, it's treating the player like a 5/5 dragon. You have 5 toughness, and it resets every turn. And if somebody can deal 5 damage against your 5 toughness, then they win. Yeah, it's interesting. I like this. I like this card a lot, actually. I think it's fun. You can do some really cool things with it. If I was going up against this, enchantment removal would be the number one thing. Because the moment you pop this, their life total has already been reset to 5. And in that situation, they have spent 7 mana to reset their life total to 5. Part of the reason why that is a real issue. So this is one of those cards that is fun. It's goofy. I would recommend giving it a shot. However, be very careful and keep your hopes low with this thing, because the fact that the damage you get to deal is at the beginning of your upkeep means that you will not see that damage the turn you play this spell. However, because your life total resets at your end step, you do have your life total reset to 5. So especially if you're in a commander game where you start with 40 life, if you play this right on turn 7, if you're playing on curve, or possibly turn 5, or whatever the case is, then there's a really good chance you're going to be losing at least 30 life just for playing this spell. That is chaos. Like, that is just asking to be pushed over. And that's not good. Also, it's at the end of your turn that your life total becomes 5. It is not the end of each turn, which I really think this should be. I feel like this should be the end of each turn your life total becomes 5. That would be far more reasonable, because right now, with it only happening at the end of your turn in a multiplayer game, all of a sudden, if you have 4 turns to go around, if each of them can just each of your opponents can contribute 2 damage in one way or another, then you're dead. There's nothing you can do. So the impact or the idea of having to hit all at once is completely eradicated. So I don't feel like Form of the Dragon scales very well to Commander, but in one-on-one casual play, and I say casual just because of how expensive it is to get onto the field, I can't think of a good way to cheat this down. I mean, Ironcrag Feat is about as good as it's going to get. Yeah, and that's not very good, if I'm honest. I like Ironcrag Feat. I have a real soft spot for it, but there are a lot of better payoffs that you can get rather than Form of the Dragon. So I think this is the card. This is a card that is fun. It's not very good, but you can do some really cool things with it. And like I said, totally my style. It's the kind of thing that I want to build a deck around Form of the Dragon. I want to find a way to make this work. And so things like Archetype of Imagination, things like Circle of Protection Red, actually, is something that I would love to throw in here. The Circle of Protection cycle is from Alpha. They are an old school cycle of enchantments that cost 1 white and 1 generic. And there's 1 for each color. And when you have 1 in play, if a source of a certain color would deal damage to you, you can pay 1 generic and prevent that damage completely. It just doesn't happen. So the reason that I would have a Circle of Protection Red in here specifically is because red is one of the few colors, if not the only color, that can consistently deal direct damage to an opponent. Now, black can deal life loss. Circles of Protection aren't going to help you with that. You straight up need life gain to combat those. However, so as a result, if I was going to go Circle of Protection, if I was going to go white life gain, damage prevention to combat this, that's how I would go. Actually, you know what? The more I think about it, if Form of the Dragon is your win condition, build some kind of stacks deck that is designed to, and I can't believe I'm recommending this, some kind of stacks deck that is designed to gain you life. Gain a lot of life, or gain life later in the game, but turtle up, make some kind of pillow fort, and make it really hard for your opponents to attack you. Cards like Ghostly Prison, Propaganda. The more I look at it, the more I realize that I think white combines with this very, very nicely. So I think if I were to build this deck, I would make it, I'd make it Jeskai. I'd make it white, red, blue. And Form of the Dragon would probably be my only red card in the whole freaking thing, if I'm honest. And I would make sure to have Ghostly Prison, Propaganda, so it's really difficult to attack me, because with flyers, I'd be nervous about that. And then I would also make sure to have cards like Blasphemous Act and Storm's Wrath that wipe the board. So I guess those would be red. Although, if we have access to white, we could just go good old-fashioned Wrath of God. We could do Wrath of God and cards like Day of Judgment. That's the other one. Also, Planar Chaos, or Planar Cleansing is one that really, if we're in a pinch, that could come in handy too. Yeah, so the way that I'm envisioning this is keep wiping the board, turtle up, make it almost impossible for your opponents to hit you, and then later in the game, pop this, and you put them on a clock. You put your opponent on a clock, and because it's so freaking hard to hit you as it is, that 5 life total isn't as big of an issue. So this is a control finisher. That's where I would put this, and that's how I would want to use it. As the coup de grace to finish off a control game. That's how I'm seeing that being used. Yeah, this has been fun. This has been Form of the Dragon. Super cool card, super weird. It's got some interesting mechanics. There are some other cards that have worked similar to this. There's also a Form of the Dinosaur. I would highly recommend checking that out. It's very similar. It's a little less expensive. I think it came out in Ixalan, if I remember correctly, but it functions in a similar way. So yeah, this has been Form of the Dragon. Super fun, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate you. You can catch me on Twitch, twitch.tv/hamhawks42. If you have any requests for episodes, please don't hesitate to come on by over there or in the Discord server, which is linked in the description below. And I'd love to hear it. So thanks so much for hanging out. I'll catch you next time.